while since we've been live, mainly because Christmas and all that jazz. How is everybody doing? I have two separate cameras here, so we are just going to see how this goes. I am live from a different country, which is why it's probably thrown me a little bit. But I have come in strong today because we are going to be going through application questions. I have a bit of a different setup, so the lighting might be slightly off, and I might be looking in two different directions, so you're just going to have to bear with me. But we're doing this today because it's the start of 2026, and everybody usually kind of starts their new year with, lots of good vibes and, reasons why they want to do certain things. And, for a lot of people, that will be, New Year's resolutions. I personally am not a fan of New Year's resolutions, mainly because New Year's resolutions, we all know kind of what happens. Like, there is a day, hi, I know it's been a while, I'm sorry, but it's going to be worth it. It's lovely to see you. Today we're going to be running through application questions in detail today, so I thought I would start the live strong. So I was just talking about New Year's resolutions, and I'm not a fan of them because especially for legal students, graduates, people trying to get through in the legal industry, and even for junior lawyers, we're so busy, we're trying our best. Oh, thank you. I hope you had a lovely Christmas and New Year too. This is the first live for 2026, so you have not missed anything, so you're just on time. But I was saying for this year, it's really important. January, I think, is a really important time for grads and people trying to get into the legal industry, or for those who are trying to get that next stage promotion in the legal industry, mainly because you still got, for aspiring lawyers, you've still got 6 good months at least of good quality application forms that you can make, which is why today I chose to do, thank you for the love, that really means a lot to me. I decided to do application form questions so that if you're applying for legal positions right now, we can go through questions and you can start putting together answers that are really going to make a great impact for your application forms. So if you don't already, I would suggest getting a pen really quickly and somewhere to write, or if you can record this, even better. But just, I think sometimes writing helps, because then you then internalize what I'm saying to you. So then when you get a question like this again from another law firm, you know exactly what you're doing. So feel free, go away. Oh, good, got a pen ready. I love it when people are just all over it. This 2026 energy is definitely what we need. Okay, so I'm going to go through some of the common application forms that I have seen in the last, I would say, month. There was a period towards the end of December where there was a flurry of people trying to get application forms in, and at the beginning of Jan, because a lot of the deadlines were then. Now there's a bit of a lull, and the next set of applications or deadlines that we have seen are around usually mid-Feb, some of them in June, July. So this is hopefully will give you time to start drafting your answers, changing them, adapting them, amending them. Okay, so I'm going to go through some of the ones that I've seen. So the first one I think is a really good one and a really easy one is please tell us about an achievement you're particularly proud of where you had to overcome obstacles. What did you do to ensure success? And you should please choose an example from academic, extracurricular, or workplace experiences. So this is a question that, yes, is asking about an achievement that you're proud of, but the important thing here is where you had to overcome obstacles. And we've talked about this, I think, last year, where law firms are creating certain questions to test your resilience. This is basically just a resilience question. They haven't mentioned, have you noticed they haven't mentioned resilience? Thank you for the love. They haven't mentioned resilience, but this is just basically a resilience question. You've had an obstacle. We want you to then talk us through, okay, how did you deal with that challenge? Firstly, how did you identify the challenge? How did you then deal with that challenge? What steps in detail did you take to then come through that obstacle or challenge? And again, resilience all over. So with this particular candidate, he started talking about the fact that he had to change countries, he had to move from one country to the other. But where his answers fell down was that he didn't go through the steps. So the first thing you're going to do is lay out the context, okay? So the context might be I was part of a sports team, or I was part of a team at work that had to do a certain task, right? So you've given the context, absolutely fine. Then the next thing you want to think about is outline then what was the thing that stopped you from, uh, uh, or what was the challenge? So it might be, here's the context, here's the challenge. Okay, so go through the challenge. What did that look like? Go through in detail. Hello, hi buddy, good to see you. So go through, we're just going through application questions because it's that time of year where application questions and responses, you need to put them together, right? So for the next week or so, we're going to be going through in detail application questions. And the question that we're going through at the moment is, um, please tell us about an achievement you're particularly proud of, where you had to overcome obstacles, and what did you do to ensure success. So we were just saying, first bit should be context, second bit should be all about the obstacle, and then the third bit, this is where he missed out on marks, was it's about what did you do to ensure success. So how did you come through that challenge? And what he failed to do was to go through that in detail. So how did you make sure you got through that challenge and that it was successful? So did you prep? Did you analyze something? Did you have to talk to other people about the challenge? Did you have to do something repetitively? Like, take us through the different steps that you went through. But what people tend to do, what applicants and candidates tend to do, is just to say, well, here was the challenge, and I did my best, and then the result was everything was great. But in that you did your best, you're not telling us what exact steps did you take to then get through and do what you needed to do to be successful. So it's the steps in this particular question that are going to be so important for you. So please don't miss that out. It's that process that's going to help you to be even more successful in your application forms. So that's the first one. Now, we're going to now move on to another question, which is very different in nature, but still very important. So the application question was, please tell us about a commercial news story you have recently been following and how it might impact law firm clients. So this is something that we see a lot of. I've seen multiple application forms from law firms that sit there and talk about, tell us about a commercial news story and how you have recently followed, or that you're interested in, some sort of variation like that, and how it might impact the firm's clients. Now, the thing that you want to do here is realize that there are two sub-questions, right? So the first question is all about a commercial news story. So they want to understand, why are you interested in a certain commercial news story? Is it because you have an interest in intellectual property, or is it that you have an interest in family law, or is it that you have an interest in immigration, or whatever that looks like. So they want to understand, what is your background, what is your reason for choosing that particular news story, okay? So you have, and the news, people ask me, okay, what type of news story should I choose? Sorry, if I'm looking over there, it's because there's also a camera there as well. The news story that they should choose, or you should choose, sorry, is one that is naturally of interest to you, okay? And when I say that, don't pick a topic that you think, oh, I'm going to pick this topic because the law firm will love it, right? It's a topic that you've got to be comfortable talking about for like 20 minutes to a partner in great detail, right? And if it's not that level of interest, then my push to you is, do we need to use that particular news story? Maybe we should do something else that is better suited to you, okay? So when you're picking a commercial news story, remember something that you could talk about easily for 20 minutes. Like for me, I mean, I'm a nerd. I love financial regulation. If you said to me, Ekme, let's talk about that for 20 minutes, I'd be like, right, let's get started. But for you, it might be something completely different. So think about what is it that really lights you up. Because then when you're drafting a response to the law firm around that particular topic, it's going to be one that they're going to absolutely can see your passion about. So choose a news story that is good for you, that you commercially can talk about for a good 20 minutes. Now the next element is about the impact. Remember, the impact on the firm's clients. So there's a little clue there. If the news stories isn't going to impact their clients, probably another thing that you probably shouldn't talk about, because then how are you going to make that link from the news story compared to their clients? Okay, so the way that I would think about it is, there's going to be stuff like I said to you that you're going to be very passionate about and that you want to talk lots and lots and lots about, which is great. Then what I would do is, you could go on the firm website, you could go on the firm's podcast, you can follow some of their partners, and you want to find out, where is their overlap? Where is there overlap between something I really enjoy and something that the law firm can also see is really important to their clients, right? So lots of things you can choose, but recently some of the things that I've really, some people have been speaking about is mergers of big law firms. Like I mean, unless you've been living under a rock, you know that in the last, I don't know, I would say 6 months, there has been a lot of mergers in the law firm space. And of course, that is going to have an impact on law firm clients. Other people have chosen to speak about things like AI. Oh, my word. I would say 80, maybe 85% of the responses that I see from law students or graduates is all about AI. There's nothing wrong with choosing that topic, but what I would say to you is, if you are going to choose that topic, then you have to have a unique view on that, or you've got to show us the reason why you have chosen that topic and how you think it's going to affect the law firm clients. Because basically, with the number of responses that I've received, all I see is things like, oh, AI is going to be a big impact. Okay. And it's going to affect law firm clients because, you know, now law firms will run more efficiently, and lawyers will have, you know, more time to add value to client matters because they're not doing admin. And don't get me wrong, this is all true, right? This is all really true. But everyone is saying the same thing. And when you've read like 16 responses from people applying for training contracts saying the same thing, like even me, I get a bit like, give me a new take on this. So you're probably thinking, okay, but how then? What should I be saying that would be different? Well, think about, like, AI is a really big topic. Why not pick a particular niche? So say, for example, there are a lot of law firms who are not just using AI within their business to be more efficient, but they're also using it as a way to create an additional revenue stream in their own business. So what does that mean? So they are creating products not just for the law firm itself, so it's efficient, but they are also now selling that product to their clients. So a lot of their clients will not have the money, time, or energy to start creating bespoke AI solutions in their own business. So what law firms are saying is, well, if we're going to have to create it for ourselves, why not make additional money from this by selling it to other people, such as our clients? And now, not just our clients are not only paying for legal advice, but now they're also paying for legal products that law firms are creating. Now that's just one example, okay? There are loads of other examples of other micro niches within AI that law firms are taking advantage of to create additional revenue stream. So just doing a bit of research into that and just scratching below the surface is going to now show that you're more commercial than somebody else who's just like, oh, the law firm is going to be mega efficient. Yes, it is. That is true. But there are other things that are going to make the law firm additional revenue that's part of a bigger pie. Okay? So definitely think about those type of things. So when you're thinking about commercial news stories, remember what you choose is going to be really, really important. What you decide to go, the route you decide to go down is going to be important. But also that second paragraph about the impact on law firm clients, I think, in my personal view, that is where the weight of the marks will be, because that's where you're going to be showing your commercial awareness um, compared to your peers, right? So those two elements are really, really important. Now, a lot of these questions will have a max word capacity of around 250, 200 words. And every time I, talk to a client about this, they'll say, "Oh, Egbe, the issue that I'm having is fitting it into that word count." That's not your problem, okay? Because yes, it's a word count, but this hasn't changed. This has been the word count for most questions for the last 5 to 10 years, right? This is not a new thing. So if you cannot now put together your question in that number of words, that tells me that you're not at the stage yet where you're able to look at your answer and understand what is the priority in that answer and what isn't. You should be able to strip back your question to the point where you're still covering it in enough detail to get your viewpoint across, but you're not surrounding it with waffle. And what I mean by that is, when I go through someone's question and they say to me, "Ekbe, can you tell me where you think I should maybe reduce my word count?" I never do that, because I feel like when I'm working with you, you have to start understanding what you should be looking for. So I always say to them, what you need to do is, if you're having things like filler words, so a lot of people will start paragraphs like, let me use an example here. Consequently, I believe, or I understand the negative impact to be. Do you know how many words I understand the negative impact to be is? That's a lot of words, okay? So why don't we reduce it down to the impact is? Like, just as a starting point, let's get rid of the filler words, because the filler words alone can amount to like 20% of the word count. So even just starting there is going to help you. Also, if you're thinking about how to reduce your word count, think of things like, what is the actual, in your paragraph, what are you actually trying to say, right? So if it's like, how is it going to have it? How is a news story, a commercial news story, going to have an impact on their clients? What are the top two things that you want to say? You might say the impact will be that it will be positive, because law firms will be able to include an additional revenue stream. And the second impact might be negative, because let's say the standard of work might drop. I don't believe that's the case, but let's just say that. Now, I've said that in probably 20 words. Why do you feel that you need to have an answer that's over 400 words to say the same thing? So if you're struggling with word count when it comes to your application forms, my push to you would be, think about what is it actually that you're trying to say, and start there, and then you can then beef it out to 100 words or 150 words. And my guide to you would be, if you've got a word count of 250 words, in a question, for example, the commercial news story question, I would maybe allocate 100 and maybe 25, maybe 120 words to the actual news story, and then the rest, so 125, 130, would be the impact. And I would weight it slightly more in favor of the impact, because in my opinion, that's where a lot of the marks are going to be. But if you're not sure, just do half and half and go from there. Like 125 words on the commercial news story, that's one paragraph. Second paragraph is then all about the impact that it's going to have on clients. Yeah. I'll stop there because there might be questions. I have spoken a lot. So feel free to let me know if you've got any questions. So just as a recap, we've covered off having to overcome particular obstacles, and we've also covered off commercial news stories and the potential impact that they might have on clients. Now, is there any questions that maybe you've seen in your application forms that you're like, mm, no idea what I'm doing there? Or maybe you would love me to answer one of the questions that you have always wanted to answer to. Feel free to put it in the chat and I'll answer it. And in the meantime, I'm just going to cover off. Sorry, I thought it was a good idea to have two screens today because I thought, oh, it will then allow me to answer your questions in real time using two screens, but it's not an easy thing. The next question that we're going to talk about is a competency-based one. So again, feel free to put any questions that you have in the chat. I'm more than happy to answer them. But let's move on to, while you do that, let's move on to question 3, which is all about competency-based questions, because we've covered a commercial awareness one, we've looked at a resilience one, and I'm going to now do a competency one. Now this question, it says the following. Please describe thank you for the love. Please describe a situation where you've worked successfully in a team. What specifically was it that made you a great team player? Okay, so the question, I'll repeat it again, is please describe a situation when you've worked successfully in a team. What specifically was it that made you a great team player? And as usual, this one is around 250 words. So with this particular question and competency-based questions, we've covered this a little bit before, but I always like to do so in a bit more detail. What they're looking for here is, firstly, can you read the question? And I say that because what some of you will do, and I've seen this a lot from candidates, is you will put together a scenario and you'll do it in the structure of the STAR method. A lot of you will be familiar with the STAR method: situation, task, action, result. Now, if you're not familiar with the STAR method, please go and Google it, because we've got lots to get through today, but go through that. A lot of people will use that structure as a way to structure their question for competency-based questions or for scenario-based questions. And there's nothing wrong with that. But remember, this particular question is about being a team player. Now, what 75% of candidates do is they'll talk about an example where they worked in a team. Absolutely fine. And then when they get to the A bit, which is the action, they'll say things like, our team was up against it, and so what I did was I told Samantha to go and consult our manager about the next steps. She did that, and then I told John that it was unacceptable that the complaint had come through, and then I told Martha and asked her to go down to the stock room and figure out what the stock numbers were. Now, what do you think might be wrong with that answer? Well, there's a lot wrong with the answer. But the main thing that is wrong with that answer is there is a lot of I, okay? In these questions, you need a balance between what you did, because we care about what you did because you're a writer drafting the form, but also it is a teamwork question. And if you're looking at your response and all it says is, I did this, I divided the team, I focused on this, I acted quickly, I did this, it almost comes across as a leadership question, okay? Because in a leadership question, it's going to be a lot of I directed this, I made sure that this progressed, I ensured that we, tailored off whatever, blah, 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 blah. Now, with teamwork questions, you have to have a balance. Yes, there will be an element of you doing stuff because it's you telling the story. But what we're also trying to focus on is that collaboration and that teamwork aspect. And that is where your marks are going to be. So changing it from I told Sally to I asked Sally what her viewpoint was on blah, blah, blah. I took this on board and tried to create, agreement between the group. So I asked John to also input his views. Like showing a bit of give and take in the question is where you're going to find that there is collaboration. You have to show that teamwork aspect and that collaboration aspect. Otherwise, you haven't answered the question. It's a leadership. You've chosen a leadership example. And if in your example you're like, oh, well, you know, I really drove it forward, my push to you would then be, well, is this the right example? Okay, so in what I would say competency based questions, the example that you choose is really going to make or break your answer, because I have seen people choose the wrong example and then they try and shoehorn it into this question as a response to this question, and it just doesn't work. And then you don't pick up the marks you need to because it's just not a strong example for the question that you asked. So please, 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 when you're looking at things like teamwork question, collaboration questions, leadership questions, times where things have gone awry and you've had to work through it, the example is going to be the thing that will really make, if I'm honest, make or break your answer. So it's important that we have the right example for your questions. For that question. So does that, hopefully that makes, that kind of resonated with you. If it did, then please do let me know. If there's any questions that you want me to answer aside from the ones that I'm doing right now, then feel free to put it in the chat. I'm more than happy to do that. Wicked. I'm glad it's helping, Monique. I thought you'd left us. Oh, okay. So lovely to see that you're still here. Okay, right. Sorry, my TikTok today is all over the place, so just bear with me. Next one I'm going to talk about is a goodie, okay? This one is about open days and events. Now, the reason why I'm covering this question is because I have not seen a good answer to this, and I have seen about, it's probably coming on for at least 50 plus responses to this since December, and I haven't seen a good answer to this, and I feel like you're all kind of making similar mistakes. Now, when people see questions like, this is the question, tell us, Monique, I'm coming to your questions, don't worry. But I'm just going to answer this one if that's okay. Tell us about any open days and events that you have attended in the legal sector. People see this as like a throwaway question. Oh, I'll just put anything and it's all good. You have to remember, with law firms, there is a reason why they're asking for stuff. Okay, this isn't a nice to have. Oh, we just want to throw that in there to create an extra question. Everything is for a reason. Okay, and this question they're asking because there are two things they want to understand. One, have you been to any of the open days for that particular law firm? What they're looking for are touch points that you have had with the firm, okay? Right, that's number one. Number two, what also they're looking for is, what have you, like, remember, open days and events are in your own time. So they're trying to understand, why have you decided to go to those particular open days and events, right? That tells them what direction you want your legal career to go into, right? So, for example, if you're going to open events like, for let's be extreme, and you're going to like US transactional type firms, right? That tells them that if you're applying to a law firm who mainly does immigration and family and trust work, are you going to be a good fit? Right? It's very different. Okay, so what you decide to put in that section is very telling. But what a lot of you are doing, like this person has here, is, oh, I've been to this law firm and this law firm and this law firm. And there's nothing wrong with putting down one or two law firms. But my push to you is, you want to be able and be in a position to put the law firm that you're applying for. And that should be the first one you talk about, okay? not its competitors, right? Like as the first thing. If you put them as the second, third thing, once you've been to their open day, no one's going to have a problem with that. But if you're just reeling off all of their competitors, but you haven't bothered to go to their open day, what do you think that tells them, right? Just going to put it out there. Okay, so some of you may say, oh, but I haven't been to their open day. My question to you is, okay, but why? Why have you not been there? What's happened? You managed to go to DLA Piper, you managed to go to Latham and Watkins, but you didn't manage to go to the very firm that you are applying for, right? So when you're putting down your answers for these for this question, think strategically. Okay, think what is the law firm going to think? How can I reframe this so it's a positive? Um, so yeah, okay, just putting that out there. I'm just double checking that you guys can hear me because I don't have my mic and I'm traveling, and I'm sorry if you can't hear me, but just give me some hearts if you can hear me. Perfect. Okay, good. Because I don't want you to be missing this. Okay, perfect. Thank you. So Monique, you've got a couple of questions. So let me start with those questions if that's okay. So let me do that. Okay, so your first question is, which service line within the business do you think X firm should be prioritizing and why? Okay, so that's a question. I'm going to come to that. Do we take a view more particularly from the firm's perspective, or do we look more commercially? Interesting. What was that? What was that in respect of? So do we take a view more particularly from the firms? Is that the tell us about an open day question? Tell me what that relates to, Monique. Sorry. You know me, I've been covering quite a lot. Let me see your next question. Oh, your first question. Okay. Okay, coming to that. Hold that thought. If we are currently working at our firm, do you think we should still be attending? Yeah. Like let me put it like this, right? Let me put it in no strange way to you. If your firm allows it, you get yourself to that open day, and that's insight say. And the way that I want you to think about it is this, right? If there is nothing stopping you, we need to be able to tell the firm, right, or show the firm, illustrate to the firm, how much you're like into that firm, right? And the easiest way to do that, the easy win, is to turn up at the Open Insight event, because do you know what they're going to say? Oh, despite the fact that she works here, she still wants to come, she still wants to network, she still wants to understand the firm's strategy. Like, this is an easy win. You're already there working. What are you doing if you're not at the Open event? Like, come on. And it's just another way for you to tick the box of, I'm interested, I've taken time out of my social life to be present and to show you how dedicated I am, right? So if you're at the firm, get yourself there. Unless they're like, oh no, you can't go. If it was me, I would be there just before the event, so that they know that I've come. I would talk to some people beforehand who maybe have arranged the event. Oh, this looks great. You know what? You know, I was hoping that you might cover something about strategy today. Is that something that you're going to cover? Ask some questions. Get in there before all of the other people who don't work at the firm get there, right? Because you have this advantage. So make the most out of it. And if you're not at the firm, because I know some of you are probably not at the firm, get yourself there early. That's what I always used to do. I used to get there a little bit early. Sometimes they make you wait in reception, but sometimes you're allowed to go through a little bit early. I use that as an opportunity to be that person who was like, hi, right? So whatever I needed to do to get that training contract, I was there. Okay, right. So the next question is, Monique, I applied last year and I attended all of the sessions. Do you think I should again this year? Yeah. Like what? Okay. With your decisions, think of it this way. What do you have to lose? You attending last year doesn't mean that stopped you from getting the training contract. If anything, that probably might have helped you to get to really push you through the stages, right? So if there are events, always think, what do I have to lose? Literally, that should just be your guiding light. If you have nothing to lose, get yourself there. Is my personal opinion. You say, I worry they think Why does she not know about us already? Oh, Monique. I'm gonna let you in on something, and this is really gonna help you just in your career in general, because we all do this, and I don't know if it's because maybe when we start off in our career we're a bit unsure, blah blah blah. Nobody cares. Okay, just gonna say it to you. Nobody cares. Okay, and worst case scenario, let's say that someone does care and they think, oh, doesn't she know us already? Maybe you want to know more. Maybe you have been put in a team where you don't always get the oversight of the firm in general. So you want to be able to attend an event where you can then understand what is the strategy for the firm going forward? How is the firm going to be implementing AI? What's its policy on recruiting juniors in the next 2 to 4 years? You're not going to hear that from your team. So what have you done? You have taken yourself to an open day and you have made sure that you know that information. Like, there's nothing wrong with that, right? And if I'm honest, who cares what anybody thinks? Unless you have control over my application form, I don't care what you think. And even if you do have control over my application form, those people are so busy, they're not going to care. They're too busy thinking, have we billed enough? Can we keep the lights on? Have we done enough BD? This is just another thing they've got to think about. So I think, in a nutshell, you're overthinking it, Monique, okay? Go to those open site sessions. You have nothing to lose. If anything, it will give you an advantage, okay? So hopefully I have answered that question. Okay, right. So let's go to your next question, which is all about a really important one, actually, and a really good question that I want to make sure that I give enough time to, which is, which service line within the business do you think X firm should be prioritizing and why? And your question here is, should I take a view more particularly from the law firm's perspective, or do we look at it from commercially? My push to you is what's the difference? And I'm saying that because the firm are always going to be thinking commercially, 100%. Okay, so there's really no difference. Okay, so, and if the firm isn't thinking commercially, then I would be concerned about whether or not we need to stay at that firm, because is it still going to be going in 5 years? But anyway, that's beside the point. So let's answer the question. So here, what they're trying to understand is, it's all commercial awareness, as you've probably guessed. And here, what they're trying to understand is, do you have knowledge of the different types of service line that the business performs? But also, more importantly, do you see the commercial opportunities for the law firm? Okay, so let me use an example. There are some law firms who are very strong in the commercial, let's say the private equity sector. Let's just use that as an example. Now, do you think then, as somebody coming into the firm or as a trainee, that that firm needs to keep prioritizing the private equity side of things, or should they be putting more firepower and resources and skilled individuals and lawyers into another part of the firm that maybe isn't as strong as private equity, right? So there is no right or wrong answer. What they're trying to understand from you is what is your commercial brain thinking? Are you thinking, no, put all of the people in private equity because that's all already a place that is already strong, we can beat the competition, we can secure the big clients because we've got a really good private equity portfolio? Or should we take that resource and should we be aggressive, and should we bolster our other service lines so that as a firm in general we are strong in multiple different areas and specialisms? So that's why I'm saying to you, there's no wrong answer, because you've just got to be able to pick an approach and be able to back it. So you might even say, and this is what I did because I'm a nerd and I love my area, I said to one law firm, look, you haven't got a financial regulatory department, right? And I was really doing this for myself because I wanted to specialize in that area. And I said, look, you are behind your peers, right? look at this firm, and this firm. They have strong financial regulatory departments. If you got one, right, you'd be able to. And I reeled off all of the stuff that they'd be able to do. I told them about the clients that they'd be able to approach. I said we could steal people. I didn't say that, but obviously acquire resources from other law firms. I mean, I gave them a whole business case, right, in the word count I was allowed. And it was very radical, but I did that because I wanted to show them that I was thinking of a bigger picture. I could have easily said, oh yeah, push your corporate team, it will be great. That's what everybody was going to say. So I thought to myself, right, what is it that I think that they should be doing? And my personal opinion was they should go into a really niche specialist area, because down their road was a really strong trading hub with lots of financial services firms, and they were all going into London to get their advice at London prices. Why not create a hub in the southeast or in the southwest where you now have go-to clients who will come to you because you're the one strong center for financial regulation, right? That was my viewpoint, and that's just me trying to give you an inkling into what I was thinking. And for you, it might be a different reason. But what I'm trying to say to you is there's no wrong or right answer. It's whether or not you could justify it commercially. And the sky's your limit. Tell them that you're going to, acquire a smaller firm or a bigger firm, whatever. Like, just tell them what your viewpoint is, and that's going to help you to stand out. Okay? Oh, my word. Okay. So was that hopefully that was helpful. And have I answered your question on commercial firms, prioritizing lines? Do we take a... Yeah, we talked about the commerciality of that. So let me know, Monique, if we've got any other questions. But I want you in your application form to really think bigger and wider, right? Let's just not just do the commonplace thing that everybody does, which is, push corporate or push personal injury. Tell us why. Why is it that you want us to be able to do that? Like, tell us what your viewpoint is, and that's going to help you to stand out from other candidates. Sorry, I get so carried away with this because I know that if you're with me at this time on a Monday, I know that you're dedicated to getting into the legal industry. And so for me, it's really important that you get in, hence why I do these lives, because I can see that you guys are hungry and you want this. To make sure you're taking notes and you're actually actioning this in your application forms, okay? Right, so that's that question. So I've got one from Tara. Tara says, how can I develop commercial awareness as a final year student looking for a TC? Okay, so where do we begin? Okay, so commercial, I'm going to be honest with you, and I know I can say this as a commercial lawyer, and I've been doing this for a number of years, but it's actually not hard, right, to start following commercial news stories. But what happens is, and I'm going to give you an inkling as to what happened with me, you start reading the Financial Times and you're like, oh my word, this is really intense. I have no idea what's going on. There's lots of acronyms. Law firms want me to be able to exhibit commercial awareness. No one told me this at uni. Like, how am I meant to show this on application forms? So what I would say to you is this: start small. The biggest thing I always tell people, and some of you who've been in my lives before know I say this, start with the podcast. Love podcasts. You can have them on at the gym, when you're commuting, when you're at uni. Start with basic podcasts. Yes. Thank you, Monique. You beat me to it. She said the FT do podcasts with 15-minute episodes. Like, we don't even need to be doing this for an hour. Like, we can do 15-minute bite-sized episodes. And do you know what that's going to help you to do? It's going to help you to be more familiar with concepts, acronyms, when they're talking about things like interest rates, or they're talking about things like economic depression, or what does the interest rate rise mean? You start to hear these things and think, oh, okay, well, last time they said that it meant this, and this might affect jobs. And if that affects jobs, what does that mean for the law firm? Will the law firm have as many clients? Like, it will start to get you to start asking questions. What you shouldn't expect is that you're going to know everything from day one. There are still things that even I'm learning at my stage in my career, right? No one expects you to know everything. What we want you to be able to do is, every time you hear a news story, I want you to start thinking about, how will it affect a law firm? How will it affect the law firm that you're applying to? So let me use an example. If there's a rise in interest rates, you might say, oh, that's a great thing. That's a great thing for savers because you might get a high interest rate on your saving. And it's also, so your savings, and then also, but for mortgage owners, it's a slightly different thing because if it goes up, oh my word, that's not what we want as mortgage owners, okay? And it's the same thing for law firms. If interest rates go up for some law firms, that will be great. You know, they'll have more clients, blah, blah, blah. For other firms, not so much. So what I want you to start thinking about is for the firms that you're applying to, all these commercial awareness news stories around AI, um, economics, banking, like how is it going to affect the law firm? And if you're not sure, do you know what you should do? There's AI. You can ask. And whatever AI says to you, I want you to take that concept and then I want you to go and do your own independent research. Because now you have a starting point with AI. You can now take that information and do some research from independent sources so that you can see, oh, okay, this is going to have the effect. What I don't want you to do, right, is to go to AI and say, what does this mean? And then take that as gospel. Because the amount of hallucinations I have seen from AI, it is unreal. So if you are going to use AI, please make sure that you're checking those sources using Google, PLC, LexisNexis. You've all got access to research tools. Okay, let's use them. Okay. So yeah, to start with podcasts, start with the FT, law firms, guys, nobody ever listens to law firm podcasts. I don't know why, because they have the greatest amount of intel possible. They tell you what law firms are thinking, what challenges their clients have, what is the strategy for the law firm in the next couple of years. They will tell you about particular cases that have really stood out to them. And sometimes they'll even go into talking about the journey of particular partners, right? And why is that important? Because then you'll know what the motivations of those partners are, and you can also, if that's something that resonates with you, you can talk about that in your application. Like, I don't understand why people don't love podcasts. This podcast, start with that. Yes, you can use obviously publications such as The Economist, the FT, the Times, the usual kind of big hitters. And then in terms of other commercial awareness, you guys now have the Commercial Law Academy. There is Little Law. Like, there's lots of resources out there that will help you to break this down. I know Little Law does a really great TikTok, right? Because apparently my attention span is so low too. I always send people there because he does great. I think it's Iden does great breakdowns of commercial awareness news stories. He did a great one on Netflix and the Warner Brothers deal. So, like, guys, use what's out there. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Okay, my word, I've really been going today. Okay, so, do we have any other questions? Let me just double check. Does anyone ask me any other questions? That's fine, Tara, no probs. Right, Monique's got a question about the legal sector. Yes, it's always evolving. It's been evolving since I was a trainee. Biggest challenges for trainees other than AI. How would you overcome? What? Okay, Monique. Time zones. I'm in a different time zone, so you're gonna have to help me out here. When you say how would you overcome, can you give me some context? So, I could give you biggest challenges for trainees other than AI. Oh my word! How would you? But what would you overcome? Like, what are you overcoming? Is that the actual question? No. You've got to DM me and tell me what firm that's from. Because I'm going to have a look at that one. Let me answer what I can then. So, biggest challenges for trainees other than AI. How long do you have? Okay. The challenge faced by trainees. Hang on. How would you overcome the challenge faced by trainees? Okay. Right. Okay. Let's have a think. So, I mean, the biggest challenge for trainees at the moment, I would say, is the reduction. Well, it's a really difficult one because I know for a fact the biggest challenge for trainees at the moment is one, a reduction in NQ numbers. Law firms will try and tell you there is a reduction in NQ numbers. We've seen the stats. So that's number one. So trying to stay hired. It's a fundamental problem. And then other things that are challenges for them is uh, career positioning, I would also say. Because, for example, now when you're thinking about what career I should go into or what law firm I should stay at, you've got to think about where is that law firm or where is that specialism going to go in 5 years' time. And the biggest challenge here is when I went in as a trainee, went into an NQ position, I was just thinking I love financial regulation. You know, it speaks to me, nerd, nerd, nerd. Yes, that was me. But now you've got to think about, this is what I'm telling my clients who are NQs and who are up to 2 years PQE. Will you have a job in 5 years' time? Now they're going to sit there and say other than AI, and I'm not talking about AI will have an impact, yes, but you can't talk about the challenges of trainees without talking about AI. And I don't understand this question. This is why I'm like, I want to see this question in detail. Because career positioning is important, right? But that's because AI is going to have an effect on the jobs and the specialisms that are out there in the next 2 to 5 years, right? Because we've already seen it happening. So if you don't want to mention I would just say it as, if it was me, career positioning is going to be important. Where do you want to be in 5 years' time? It's some specialisms are contracting, and so you might not have a long career in that. Um, and then other things like being able to secure positions given the reduction in numbers would be another for me. But that's a really hard question. DM me, Monique, because I want to see that one. And what I will do is, for those of you on the live, I will answer that tomorrow. Because as usual, live most days this week. So we will answer that one for you tomorrow because that is an abysmal question. Just saying. But let me have a look at it and then I will come back with a lovely, beautiful concept you can think about tomorrow. Aside from that, I know we're getting to the end of the live, so let me know if there's anything I can finish up on. I know that we've covered quite a lot. So we've talked about resilience questions, we've talked about teamwork questions, we've talked about open days and events. Remember that open days and events, remember looking for touch points with the firm. So if you haven't gone to any insight sessions with the firms, open days with the firms, you might want to. Yeah, so we can put something in that column. Tara said, what time do you usually go live? Oh, you're new, Tara. Nice to see you. 7 p.m. your time, so UK time, 7 p.m. usually, which is, wait for it, which is 11 p.m. my time. Oh my word. It's coming to 12 a.m. now. This is why I'm like a little bit delirious. But I'm abroad for a bit, so yes, I know. This is just for you guys. This is what I do for you. So yeah, I'm back tomorrow. I really am shattered. Can you not tell? I'm back tomorrow, same time, 7 p.m. UK time. If you have any questions that you want us to answer in the lives, can you just DM us? Just let us know what questions you want us to ask, and we'll do it in the live. I know we've got this question about challenges for trainees. We're going to pick that up tomorrow. And then if there's anything else you can think of, then feel free to reach out to us. And hopefully that's helpful. And yes, at the end of this week, we will be doing a piece around virtual interviews, because some of you, oh my word, I have seen some virtual interviews and we need to do a piece around that, because guys, if we're going through all of this pain with the application form and we get through to the next stage, we need to be ready for our virtual interview, okay? So we're going to be covering that off towards the end of the week. Hopefully that's helpful. Thank you so much for joining today. It's been a pleasure as always. Great questions. And we'll see you again tomorrow. Thanks, everybody. I will say good night. Night, everyone.